Hey everybody, I'm super excited to be here today with Camilla Arnold. She is the CEO of Tacassia Publishing, and she is also a creativity and writing coach and just an all-around amazing person.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I just love your light and your energy so much. And we were just saying right before we went live that that a lot of the work you're doing is aligned with the message that I share as well. So I'm really passionate and excited to have this chat today. And for anyone who is joining us, be sure to comment, say hello, let us know that you're here. We would love for you to engage with us in the conversation. And
Definitely.
Also, if you're watching the replay, be sure to comment and let us know that as well. And for those of you who might be new to my world, my name's Jennifer Spohr, and I'm an Akashic Records Channel soul-led business mentor and strategist. I work with a lot of leaders who are feeling called to step into new levels of potentiality in their purpose and mission. So now that I got all that out, we can move forward. Yay. I'm really excited. So, Camilla, I'd love for you to share with us what inspired you to this amazing path that you're on.
I think I always wanted to be a writer. That was the dream when I was little, and a comment from a relative made me feel less than good enough. And I think actually it was meant to happen. The more I think back on it, had I have just stuck with that path and just been a writer, that's all I would have been, just written the stories. But what it did in making me feel small is it sent me on this path, gathering up all of these skills, all of this knowledge and experience. I went and I was a freelance book designer because I wanted to stay around the stories. I wanted to stay around the books without writing them myself. Mm-hmm. But it was like all roads lead to Rome. Everything kept kind of shifting me and pushing me towards using that feeling of being told I'm not good enough to write, that I don't have anything worth saying, to then help other people. Because what happened was eventually, graphic design is a dog eat dog world. It's not fun. And I got a bit disillusioned with it. And I decided to take up my other passion of wedding photography. Did that for a couple of years. And it was actually going really, really well. The business was really growing. And I think I felt like I was on my path. That was what I was going to do for the rest of my life, because I could see it gaining momentum. And then I think the universe kind of said, well, hang on, that's not what you're meant to be doing. So they threw me a curveball in the shape of, I had an anxiety panic attack at a wedding, and it just shut me down. I just realized I couldn't do that anymore. I couldn't be at a wedding and be afraid that I might have another panic attack. It wasn't fair on me or the client. So I went back to design. And what happened was a client asked me about books. And I said, well, yes, that's what I used to do many, many years ago, but hadn't told her. And from that, it started to build into more people wanted me to help them with their books. Can I publish their books? And then they were coming to me saying, I'd really love you to publish my book, design my book. But I was stuck on the writing. And I thought, oh, I know what this feels like. And then now my voice is going because I'm talking about, I'm really hitting the point here. I became really passionate about, I didn't want anyone else to feel like me and feel like they didn't have a story worth sharing, that they didn't have anything to say, that they weren't good enough. And it's just led me to this feeling of wanting to empower other people, to help them find that story that's within them, find the value in their story and share it with the world. So that's what I do now. And it's just the most amazing thing to see people light up when they unleash that within themselves, and then to actually put it out into a book and hold it in their hands. There's just nothing like that feeling. I'm sure you know what I mean.
I do. You and I actually met through Sacred Redesign.
We did. We worked on that together. That was
great. And just to elaborate, I just looked at the clock and it said 4:44 in terms of time passed by.
There we go, divinely aligned.
I love those synchronicities. I just wanted to affirm what you were saying about there not being anything like sharing your story, because I mean, for me, with Sacred Redesign, I've had my business for the last few years, and I have a podcast, and I'm doing all the things, right? In terms of, well, mostly in terms of being visible. But my whole point being is, despite all of that creating and other writing, there was nothing like writing a chapter for that book. And it was divinely guided, of course, because it's a whole other conversation, but I've actually had a book in kind of simmering for a while.
Oh,
and
okay.
it was just the universe, that opportunity came along through Adriana, and it was like, okay, yes, I need to do this. But my whole point being is that there really is nothing like it, despite all the content I've created and put out there over the years. Sitting down to write that chapter was very cathartic, therapeutic. There are
really
parts
transformational.
It really was. There were parts of the story that I've talked a lot about in my business, but there were also parts that was the first time I had ever shared some of that information publicly. So it was pretty profound, pretty amazing. I highly recommend for.
I think that's the really important thing to actually realize as well. We always get this idea that it's the whole book when you do it, the solo book, that it's going to be really transformational. But actually, when you really tell that story from the heart, even if it's just a chapter that's 3,000 words, it can be so transformational. It's such a journey to go on to put that into words. I mean, I used to design books for a living for, the last decade, and it was amazing to hold the book in my hands and think, oh, I remember when this was just a Word doc and a load of images in a folder, and this feels amazing to hold it, that I helped put it together. But that didn't compare to the day that I held the book and thought, my story is in this, and I've put my name to it. And it's that legacy piece as well, knowing that it's out there in the world and it's going to stay out in the world forever. It's just profound on so many levels. You are absolutely right.
Yeah, it really is. And just to address what a lot of people think out there is like, is my story important enough? Like, why should I share my story? That's part of how we're wired as humans, and one of the experiences that we're meant to have here as a soul, having a human experience, is that living those experiences, they become crystallized into wisdom, and then we are meant to share
the storytelling, it's that it harks back to the ancient, when we were in the tribes and we'd all sit around the fire and tell the stories, and we do it in a different way now, but it still activates that remembering within us. It's how we connect with each other. It's how the wisdom gets passed on, and if we're not telling those stories, then the wisdom gets lost to the ages.
Absolutely.
And it's so important to remember that, particularly in the online space, you tend to find yourself in groups with people who are doing similar, if not the same things as you. And there's this feeling of, oh, well, everyone's doing this. Why is my story important? And you can feel like, well, because everyone's doing it, I don't have anything to share. But actually, you do, because it's your unique perspective, your experiences. It's even in the way that you tell the story, because you'll use different language to someone else and it resonates with different people. Different stories they could be, roughly very similar. Like, I learned about these modalities and this is my mission, but it's in the way you tell it and how it lands for someone reading it that makes it worth telling, because they are different. That you don't have this cookie cutter approach to all our stories and our lives. We are so multifaceted that everyone's story has wisdom and value, but people, I think they struggle to see it for themselves, because they just look around and say, well, everyone's doing this. It can be really hard to turn inwards and find that value in what you have and have experienced and what you do and know.
Absolutely. I think, by the way, for anyone who's joined us, be sure to say hello. I believe it's, what you were talking about, how everyone's story matters. And, certain words resonate with certain people, I feel like there's an energetic resonance too.
Definitely, yeah.
Like when certain people come together, feel drawn to each other, the message is one of the surface things, but there's also a deeper energetic resonance.
Absolutely.
Happening too.
Yes, because I mean, words have vibrations themselves that we feel, but it's not just about the words, it's also about the way we deliver it. Are you using hand gestures and your facial expressions, your body language, and then it's the energy with which you deliver it. And we don't consciously read any of that. It all kind of comes at a really subconscious level. We just pick up on these things, and this is where people can get frustrated because their message isn't landing. Say it's in a business space and they've got an offer or something, it's not quite landing for them. And what I find that is some kind of misalignment between their energy and their words and their offer. There's something just not quite aligned. But when you do hit that alignment, you just see it land for people, and it really, they just connect like to your heart, to your soul, and then you found your tribe. It just makes it effortless.
Yes. I'd love to talk a little bit more about, the power of storytelling, because I believe that every one of us that is here right now and feeling that calling to share our message, there's a reason for that. And we're part of a time that we're living in where following your intuition, sharing your message and your wisdom isn't just a nice to have anymore. It's really it is a necessity to learning, to expansion, and to navigating your path forward. And it's also a huge component of our healing as well. And I feel like storytelling and just us, showing up and being visible with our message in the world is really part of the future of that. Absolutely. Learning and
yeah, I mean, we've come to a point in the world where, like, masculine strategies and all of that kind of stuff, people are questioning it and saying it doesn't work for me. I want something different. They are challenging societal norms. They're trying to find new ways, more feminine, more intuitive, more flowing ways of doing life and business. And a lot of people have been doing this, but they've been doing it sort of quietly on their own, staying in their own lane. And it's actually comes to the point where it's really important that you tell everyone else what you're doing, that it's working for you, because the people who do have that courage to tell that story and say, this is where I was, this is the journey I went through to get here, and this is where I am, they are the evidence that other people need to make the leap. Because not everyone has that bravery, has that courage to take that leap on their own. They're looking for someone to lead them. So it's the people who step up now, who share their stories. They are the ones who are leading us into a new way of doing things. And we know it's called for because people are tired. People have been questioning this stuff for so long. They're looking for something new, and it's people like us that have the answers. So yeah, people are afraid because, we've got this whole persecution complex. There's a witch wound that lives within us all. But I mean, I was talking about this today in a post that I put out about that fear of being seen, because, we used to be burnt at the stake for saying this stuff. If it was too woo, if it was too spiritual, you'd be called a witch and you'd be dead. We're very lucky to not have that happen to us anymore. But people still have that fear rooted within them. And it's about transcending that and just leading the way and being brave enough to say, you know what, this is my truth. I have to share it and be the evidence for everyone else, because otherwise nothing changes.
Yeah.
You still stay on a limb, basically.
Yes. Oh my gosh, yes. And when you were bringing up the witch wound, I was thinking about the sisterhood wound too, which is something I'm actually in the process of writing a post about, because it's just so prominent, in so many of our journeys. You have some amazing book collaboration projects forming right now. Tell us more about those, because I know there are definitely people in my world who are feeling called to share their message in a bigger way. And this is a fantastic way to do that.
Yeah, it really is. I love multi-author books, having been in one myself and seen the power of it. I mean, I have written a solo book, but the experience compared to a multi-author, because what you said there about that sisterhood wound, you don't get that in the multi-author experience. It's so supportive, it's collaborative, it's a beautiful community that gets created around these books, which I just absolutely love. And I think that's really important, particularly for these two books that I'm creating. They're bringing together people who have been, you know, the lone wolves, the ones who have been going it alone, you know, breaking paradigms. They've been, you know, trusting the universe and sometimes on a wing and a prayer, trusting the universe. And they can be really solitary paths that you take. You know, that's it's a leap of faith. It's that trust that you go on, that inner journey. So then to bring all these people together and say, we all had this experience. Our experiences are all very different, and we're going to show you like the breadth of the experiences and the richness of it all. But we all went on that journey of trust, and I think what it does is it brings these people together and gives them the support that they didn't have at the time, the community they didn't have at the time, and creates a group of leaders that can then be the guiding lights, the shining beacon of hope for the people who come after them, the people who read these books and say, I want some of that. What do I do? And we've created that in these books, which I think is just really important to do. It's because we've been in a kind of, the world has taught us that, you know, business is quite solitary. We all do it alone. It's competition over collaboration, whereas these books turn that on its head and say, actually, no, it's all about the collaboration, working together, supporting one another, celebrating one another, which I just love.
Yeah, absolutely. And so these books, would this be for someone who is an entrepreneur only, or?
No. So Guiding Lights is one of the titles, and that is about people who have divinely led businesses. So that one is more for the entrepreneurs, holistic practitioners, people who are doing some kind of business, and, you know, whether it's walking hand in hand with the universe, source, God, angel, spirit, whatever you call it. So that one is more business oriented. But the other book that I'm doing, called Paradigm Shifters, that's about people who are breaking paradigms, challenging societal norms across life. It's for visionaries. It doesn't have to be specifically about business. It could be you're breaking relationship paradigms, or in your life, in motherhood, whatever it is. It's to show all the spaces that we can change things, that we can pave a new way. And I think that's really important to say, that actually it's not just for business people. Everyone can be part of this, because we kind of get in this mindset that we all have to be changing, like revolutionizing an industry. And it's like, actually, no, you can be revolutionizing your life somehow. You can be, you know, really challenging something and creating something completely new. And it doesn't have to be business related. So I think it's nice for people to be able to share those stories as well, because, you know, we see all these multi-author books and we see all these people, entrepreneurs, putting books out there, and they are very focused on, this was my journey in business, these are the things I learned, blah, blah, blah. But it comes back to what we said earlier about, we're multifaceted beings. We have lives outside work. Let's make our whole life work for us, not just our business.
That title, Paradigm Shifters, is just so buzzy to me.
Yeah, I love it. It's got a real buzz to it.
It does. It just puts me in my heart. Like, I'm just like, ooh, it just lights me up whenever I hear it.
It's for the people who are really rewriting the narrative. Whatever narrative that is, they are completely tearing up the old rule books and creating something new.
I'm all in on that club.
Yeah. And that's a really hard thing to do. You know, it takes a lot of courage. I really admire and applaud the people who step up and say, yeah, I want to talk about this, because it's hard enough in the first place to try and challenge something that already exists and say, no, I don't want that, I'm going to create something new for myself. But then to talk about it, that can be equally as hard. I mean, we talked at the beginning about how transformative these chapters can be. It really is, like you said, a cathartic process to kind of reflect on your journey when you're writing these stories and just say, wow, look at what I have done, look at what I have created in this process.
Yes, and that's the thing too, is just more of that societal conditioning around that we constantly have to do more, or it's just like a lack and scarcity mindset of it's just never good enough, and really creating the space to celebrate ourselves and the path that we've come so far on is just really important. Camilla, where is the best place for someone to get in touch with you?
So obviously I'll leave a comment under this video, so if anyone wants to send me a private message, they can. If not, you can email me at hello@camillafellisarnold.com, and we can go from there. We can chat about these books because people have questions. I've had a lot of people in the last few weeks come to me and say, oh, I love the titles, I love the covers, but I don't know if my stories are fit, I don't know if I have something to say. There's that kind of fear about, you know, what we said about, I don't know if my story has value. So if anyone's thinking, oh, I feel really called to it, but I'm not sure, come chat to me and we'll talk it through, and I will help you find the value in your story, give you the confidence you need to share it. Because you know what, these books, they came to me last year, around this time last year, these titles, and I felt intimidated at the time. I was like, oh, I'm not sure if I'm the person to lead.
Right, is it me?
Yeah, I was just not quite like, oh, I don't know if that's me. So I went away and did the work because I loved the titles. I saw like the vision of the covers in my head. I thought they're beautiful. I want to be the person to lead these books, but I knew I wasn't at the time. So I went away, did the work, and I came back a year later, and the titles, the books, the energy of them hadn't left me. It's like they're ready to come out now, and I can feel it. The authors are there. They're just, people are just needing to take that leap of faith, like I said earlier.
Yeah, and to add to that, what you were saying earlier about feeling that call and to reach out even if you're unsure, because there's a reason why you're feeling that call, and
Absolutely.
that's, again, making that paradigm shift from letting your mind run the show. Something I often say is that, you know, the mind is a faithful servant. It definitely serves a purpose for us, but our soul is eternal. The soul has the blueprint for our lives. It is always guiding us toward expansion. And the only time that it feels scary is really when our mind is telling us, oh no, this is not what we know, you know, to be possible. So don't do this.
It can be really hard. I mean, I remember going back to, we were in Sacred Redesign, I remember getting the email from Adriana inviting me to be part of it. And I felt the full body yes. And I thought, I've got to jump on this before my brain kicks in and talks me out of it, before I wonder if I've got something to say, before I wonder if my story has any value, because I know that that can be so paralyzing. So you know what, if anyone's not sure, yes, it's a leap of faith, but also talking, you know, I'm happy to talk to anyone to just help them tease that out of themselves, work it out, feel into it. Because sometimes, like for me, it was a full body yes. Sometimes it's a quieter yes that you have to feel into, but it's really important to acknowledge when you do feel a yes and follow those breadcrumbs, wherever they take you.
Absolutely. I find also just it's especially important to listen to the quieter yeses, and that sometimes they feel quieter to us because there may be some sort of limiting belief or unhealed trauma or something that is, you know, basically muzzling the I can't think of like a really cool word to use.
It's a real subtle feeling, and the more you lean into when you feel like really quiet, yes, you can, it brings up all the things, all the limiting beliefs and all the reasons, 100 reasons why you shouldn't do it. But if you start to work through them, that yes can become clearer and louder if you give it a chance. It's about kind of disconnecting your brain for a minute and actually feeling into the body. What does your body say? Are you feeling the pull? And are you going to trust yourself to feel the pull or not? It's like a really fine line when people are in that space. It's like, what are you going to do? This is your choice. You have a crossroads here. What are you going to choose?
And that's the bigger question. I mean, even beyond what we're talking about today, I did a video on this recently, trusting your inner guidance. This is something that anyone at any point on their journey, deals with, right? Because
absolutely.
as you continue to expand, it's just like new invitations to mastery. That's what I call them. But
I like that. That's nice.
Yeah. Camilla, I could talk to you all day, honestly, but in closing, is there anything else you're feeling guided to bring forward as we wrap up?
I think what I'd like to say to people is, if you're watching this and you are feeling some kind of pull, try to listen to what it's saying. Try to tune in and just feel that intuition. What does it say to you? It's not definitely, you have to come work with me. I want people to be able to feel empowered, but also feel like they can trust their own voice, whatever it says to them. So it's really important to just take that time to listen to yourself and kind of get yourself out of the way, as it were, and just believe that whatever you want to do, whatever you feel guided or pulled towards, it's right for you, it's meant for you. And that leap of faith, I know we talked about it a few times, it's not as scary as you think it's going to be. It's only scary in that moment before you do it. Once you're actually in the leap, you're just moving, you're just gaining the momentum, you're just doing the things. Yes. So sometimes take the leap and then work the rest out afterwards.
Absolutely. I mean, everything you desire is on the other side.
Absolutely.
Of taking the leap.
Do you know what? I know exactly what you mean. I've been on that journey myself. And the scariest part is just before you actually take the leap. There's a song that I'm thinking of that I've been, it's a Japanese singer. But the last line of the song, when you translate it into English, it basically says, there's nothing scarier than giving up. And it's that same thing. When you're in that moment just before you take the leap and you choose not to, that's the really scary part. It's not actually scary when you're taking the leap, or not as scary, because your emotion, you're doing the thing. So I'd say just take that breath and then leap. If you're feeling that pull, go for it. Trust yourself.
Camilla, thanks so much for just coming on today and sharing your gifts and wisdom. And just another reminder for those who've jumped on later, you'll be including links in the comments, right, of how someone can get in touch with you, and also more info about these really just amazing opportunities for collaboration that you have with these books. It's just so fantastic and exciting.
I will drop the covers in the comments as well, because sometimes people need that visual to be able to tune into the energy of them.
Yeah, and you're so gifted as well with the design. I mean, I'm glad you're sharing the visuals, because the titles and the visuals are super impactful.
Yes. Yeah, the minute I've seen so many people, the minute they see the covers, they can feel it more, because not everyone can hear it. We're all different, visual, audio, etc. So the combination of the two then helps it be clearer for people whether they really do feel that pull or not. So yes, I will include them in the comments.
Celebrating everyone who is having the courage to get their message out.
Yes, I am excited to hear from the people who are brave enough to take the leap, and I will walk it with them.
Thank you so much, Camilla.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.